Hello and a very good evening to all the audiences who have joined with us today on this Dr. KK's Med Talk non-stop show. I welcome all of you to the Med Talks Live, the conversations that matter, which is an educational initiative by Eli Lilly. And I am Dr. Vaishali Deshmukh. I am an endocrinologist at Pune in Maharashtra, and I head the Department of Endocrinology at Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, and I am the director of Deshmukh Clinic and Research Center. We focus a lot of non-communicable disease work, and I think obesity is one of the most important topics for the day because this is a fast-growing epidemic, and today we are going to be discussing on the interaction of genes with obesity. So हाउ द जीन्स एक्ट ऑन द एनवायरनमेंट. तो आपका जो जेनेटिक मेकअप है, आपके शरीर में जो अंतर्गत जीन्स है, उसका आपके एनवायरनमेंट से क्या ताल्लुक होता है और उससे ओबेसिटी कैसे बढ़ती है, वो हमें आज सीखना है. And we have very good interactions with our host who will be joining us today. So we all know that whenever you compare two obese people, you realize that the person may not be eating a lot, the person may be exercising a lot, but even then the patient looks obese to you, or the person is not able to lose weight as good as. So you दो सहेलियां हैं, एक है जो दो रोटी खाती है, दूसरी भी दो रोटी खाती है, लेकिन एक का वेट बढ़ता है, एक का वैसे ही रहता है, एंड शी इज फाइंडिंग इट डिफिकल्ट टू लूज वेट इन स्पाइट ऑफ ट्राइंग एफर्ट्स टू कट डाउन हर डाइट. तो ये क्यों होता है? बिकॉज हर एक का जेनेटिक मेकअप अलग होता है एंड जीन्स अलग होते हैं. तो जीन्स क्या होते हैं? तो इट्स लाइक अ ब्लूप्रिंट ऑफ आवर बॉडी. सो अपना एक ब्लूप्रिंट होता है, अपना एक स्केच होता है और उस पर एक मेकअप होता है और वैसे शरीर तैयार होता है. तो it is said that the genes are known to load the gun, and environment, the surrounding around us is known to give the trigger. So the trigger will be pulled only when you have the genes which are loading your body, and that's what we are going to learn today, at how your genes are going to work on the interaction with the environmental factors, with the surrounding, आपके social factors जो है आपके family के साथ है, आपके खाने पीने के साथ है, exercise के साथ है, ये कैसे interact करते हैं और कैसे obesity को आसान या मुश्किल बनाते हैं treat करना. तो now you all know that obesity is treated as a chronic disease, एंड क्रॉनिक डिजीज जिसको बोला जाए उसके लिए हमें ये समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि उसके लिए ट्रीटमेंट लाइफ लॉन्ग होती है, कंटिन्यूस स्पेक्ट्रम में उसको ट्रीट किया जाता है, और उसके लिए हमें जीन्स की जानकारी होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. बिकॉज बहुत बार हमें लगता है कि अरे ये बेचारा तो बहुत कुछ कोशिश कर रहा है और कम नहीं हो पा रहा है वेट उसका, तो उसकी वजह उसके जीन्स में हो सकती है. सो नाउ दैट वी आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग द जेनेटिक मेकअप ऑफ ओबीज पीपल, वी नो दैट वी कैन help the patients better by treating the genetic problems or targeting them in a better fashion. So it gets smarter to treat obesity in lines of genes and the environment. So that's what we are going to read about today. But before I go to the interview or the topic per se, I would like to update you on certain key points in obesity. So the first important thing is that researchers all over the world are mapping rare and common genes all over the populations to uncover the multiple genetic factors. So सारी दुनिया में genetic mapping हो रहा है ताकि ओबेसिटी का जो जीन का मेकअप है वो क्या है, किस तरीके का है, उसका इंटरेक्शन शरीर से कैसे हो रहा है और कैसे वो इन्फ्लुएंस करता है ओबेसिटी को एज अ डिजीज, एंड हाउ इट गिव्स अस इंसाइट्स इनटू ट्रीटिंग ओबेसिटी, और वेट लॉस करना कितना आसान हो जाता है उसके नॉलेज की वजह से, वो हमें पता चलता है. दूसरी बात है कि लार्ज इंटरनेशनल एनालिसिस हैज फाउंड दैट देयर इज अ पॉलीजेनिक रिस्क स्कोर. पॉलीजेनिक रिस्क स्कोर का मायना क्या होता है कि जो जीन्स होते हैं वो अलग टाइप्स के होते हैं. तो पॉलीजेनिक मीन्स बहुत सारे जीन्स होते हैं, तो उसका एक रिस्क स्कोर होता है. रिस्क स्कोर में क्या होता है, हमें प्रिडिक्ट कर सकते हैं कि आपको ओबेसिटी होगी या नहीं होगी, आपकी ओबेसिटी होती है तो ट्रीटमेंट होगी या नहीं होगी, वो रिस्पॉन्ड करेगी या नहीं करेगी. सो ऑल दीज आर now dependent on the genes that you harbor in the body, and nearly over 5 million people have this genetic data collected, and now you can reliably predict the risk of adult obesity from childhood, potentially guiding other prevention strategies. So that's a very important landmark discovery for obesity treatment. Now, scientists have also reported many genetic factors in different populations, but which are common soil. So, ऐसा है कि दुनिया में populations अलग है, लेकिन genes कहीं common होते हैं, जो common होने की वजह से they may respond to various medicines and drugs for obesity in a similar fashion. So, उसमें एक कॉमन यूनिवर्सलिटी होती है जिसमें वेट लॉस मेडिसिन सही तरीके से सब पॉपुलेशंस में काम कर सकते हैं. सो दैट इज वन इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग, दैट देश प्रदेश और जाति पर जाति के हिसाब से आपके जीन्स बदलते हैं और कहीं पे जीन्स सिमिलैरिटी भी दिखाती है. Now, important article has been published in JAMA Cardiology, which says that once a week semaglutide significantly reduces the number of hospital admissions. तो ये क्या बताता है कि एंटी ओबेसिटी एजेंट है जो सेमाग्लूटाइड, हमें पता है, तो वो एजेंट जो है जिनमें इस्तेमाल किया गया उनमें हॉस्पिटल में जाने की जो नौबत है एडमिशन के लिए किसी भी वजह से वो बहुत कम थी. तो इसकी वजह यह थी बिकॉज इट इज़ नोन टू इम्प्रूव हेल्थ and improve quality of life and well-being. So we need to understand that anti-obesity medications not only reduce weight, but they also help in improving the health of the person and well-being of the person, and that's why hospital admissions are known to be cutting down, and this benefits are much beyond heart protection and weight loss. So we need to understand that. Research also says that this is one interesting point, that eating meals in the day can help the people with high genetic risk lose weight better or maintain their weight loss better. So जो biological clock है, निसर्ग चक्र है, उसको जो लोग दिनचर्या के हिसाब से खाना खाते हैं, जो शाम को जल्दी खाना खाते हैं, हमारे यहाँ जैनिज्म में है, हिंदुइज्म में है कि शाम के बाद खाना नहीं खाया जाता है. सो इट्स लेट इवनिंग मील्स आर अवॉइडेड इवन इन आवर कल्चर, and that has shown to be beneficial in patients who are at high genetic risk of obesity. So eating early meals in the evening is very good for health. That has been proven now. So I think a lot of interesting facts in obesity. We will be hearing more from Dr. Agarwal, who will be joining us soon. Causes weight gain. So we are talking about lifestyle and genetics. में से दोनों में से कौन सा परड़ा भारी है कि जिसकी वजह से ओबेसिटी होती है, जिसकी वजह से ट्रीटमेंट करना इतना मुश्किल हो जाता है. So we have an important guest with us, very well-known personality, Dr. Sanjay Agarwal from Pune, and it's a privilege to host him today. And welcome, Dr. Sanjay. And
Thank you very much, Vaishali.
yeah, hi. So nice to have you, and we are fortunate to be alumnus of the same institute. So glad to be again with you today. And Dr. Agarwal is the Secretary General of Research Society of for Study of Diabetes in India, which is the largest diabetes society professional body. And he's the director of Department of Diabetes, Obesity, Metabolic Diseases at Ruby Hall and Sahyadri Hospital, Pune. So we share the common city, common alumni. So I'm glad to have him today, and he's going to share with us decades of clinical experience, and his leadership has been very novel, and he's been a very encouraging person as far as the RSSDI growth has been seen over past few years. So we are truly honored to have him today with us to share his insights on this important topic of genetic versus lifestyle in obesity. So welcome, Dr. Sanjay.
Thank you very much, Vaishali, for such an exhaustive introduction. But I think, forget the introduction, it's always a pleasure to interact with you. We both have common interests, and that's obesity. And, when we talk, we would love to explore new areas जहाँ से हमें पता लगे कि किस तरीके से हम पेशेंट पॉपुलेशन को हेल्प कर सकते हैं, हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग कैसे ग्रो कर सकती है, और फ्यूचर क्या है ओबेसिटी के बारे में. एंड इज देयर अ होप, इज देयर अ सॉल्यूशन, और हम किस तरीके से पेशेंट्स को मोटिवेट कर सकते हैं कि उनकी वेट किस तरीके से कम हो और उनको वैसे रखा जाए. सो आई आस्क वैशाली टू टेक ओवर अगेन.
Yeah, so I think I would leave it to a very informal discussion between both of us. And of course, we expect a lot of audience questions also for this matter because it's a less spoken topic in obesity. So, coming to you on the person's weight, how much is the weight of a person determined by the genetic predisposition? तो जीन्स की वजह से कितना वेट गेन या कितना वेट आदमी का तय होता है?
See, the genes, there's different studies talk about different probability कि genes कितना determine कर दे. So there are studies which show almost 40% to 70% where you have, determination, where genes determine कि आपकी future weight क्या हो सकती है. And as you rightly pointed out earlier, the genes and lifestyle disturbances go together. You can't blame everything on the genes. All right. So you can easily get away with saying, I can't lose weight, blame it on my genes. And if I don't lose weight, I was born this way. So there's nothing I can do about it. No, it's not that way. The genes always, as you rightly pointed out, gives you the framework, right? But not everybody who's got the genes will tend to become fat. There has to be something additional to that genes that makes a person obese, right? And that's the lifestyle disorder, the kind of determination कि वो कितना खाता है, उसकी एक्सरसाइज कितनी होती है, उसका जो भूख है वो सैटाइटी किस लेवल पे आती है, उसकी फैट कहाँ स्टोर होती है, राइट, उसका हंगर सिग्नलिंग कितना होता है, तो ये सारा एक ऐसा होता है. एंड आई ऑलवेज टेल पीपल कि आप डिटरमिन करते हो कि आपको कितना खाना है, आप कहाँ पे नो बोलना सीखते हो, राइट. एंड आई ऑलवेज से दैट द स्टमक वॉल्यूम इज अ वेरी डायनामिक वॉल्यूम. एंड आई थिंक यू वुड अग्री विद मी दैट एक सिंपल एनालॉजी के तौर पे मैं बोलता हूँ कि अगर आप रोज 3 किलो खाते हो तो आपकी सैटिस्फैक्शन लेवल आपके 3 किलो पे आएगी. और आप 2.5 किलो खाओगे, 2 किलो खाओगे, तो आपका बॉडी आपको रिमाइंड करते रहेगा कि आज आपने उतना खाया नहीं, क्योंकि स्टमक वॉल्यूम आपको उतना, जब तक 3 किलो तक नहीं पहुंचता वो आपको उतना सैटिस्फैक्टी आएगी नहीं. और आपके जो सैटिस्फैक्टी हार्मोन जो है वो किक इन नहीं होंगे, तो आपका ग्रेलिन एक्टिव रहेगा, जो है वो जो आपका हंगर हार्मोन है. पर अगर आप 3 किलो तक खा चुके हैं, ये सिर्फ उदाहरण के तौर पे मैं बोल रहा हूँ, तो आपको एक सैटिस्फैक्टी आ जाती है जिसके आगे आप नहीं खा सकते. पर आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट, बॉडी रिक्वायरमेंट, एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट इज नॉट 3 किलो, इट इज जस्ट 1 किलो. सो आप एक 2 किलो जो है सरप्लस खा रहे हो रोज का, जो है जो आपके, अगर आप स्पेंड नहीं कर रहे हो एक्सरसाइज के जरिए कोई जरिए से, तो वो 2 किलो आपके बॉडी में ऐड होते जा रही है. Now these are just random figures I'm going. Don't take it seriously कि 2 किलो 1 किलो. But this is just for the sake of explanation जो है वो, right?
Yeah.
पर अगर हम अपने आप को रीप्रोग्राम कर ले कि हम आज 3 किलो नहीं 2 किलो खाएंगे, राइट, और आप ये उसको किसी भी तरीके से वो हंगर लेवल्स को जो है आप कंट्रोल कर सकते हो, तो बॉडी को एक मेमोरी तैयार हो जाती है कि अब मुझे 2 किलो पे सैटिस्फैक्टी आ रही है, राइट. और अगर वो 2 किलो पे सैटिस्फैक्टी आ रही है तो आपका स्टमक वॉल्यूम उसी हिसाब से रीशेप हो जाता है, और आपको फिर सैटिस्फैक्टी 2 किलो, तो आपने ऑटोमेटिकली कैलोरी रिस्ट्रिक्शन कर लिए खुद से, और आपके बॉडी को उसकी मेमोरी हो चुकी है. एंड दिस इज ऑल प्रोग्रामेबल. सी नथिंग, इट्स ऑल डायनामिक. So genes are there in the background, but just because the genes are there in the background, it doesn't mean that everybody becomes obese, right?
Hmm. That's
Also
right.
determined by the fact कि आपका stomach volume आप कितना रख रहे हो. You don't have to eat because it is in front of you, and that's a common problem that we have कि because खाना है तो आप हाथ उसको reach out करोगे ही करोगे उसके लिए, और उसके वजह से आप unnecessary eating habits आपके रखते हैं, जिससे आपका कैलोरी कंजम्पशन कंटिन्यूस रहता है. Now to a certain extent satiety, hunger, all this is also programmed by the genes, right? So I mean, you can't just say that it's only environment also in that sense. So I don't know what your experience is, Vaishali, but I feel that a lot of time I motivate people to say, look, can you just restrict your calorie consumption by 5%, and just say, okay, I'm not going to eat, let's say, in a bigger plate, but I'm just going to eat in a smaller plate, and I have a plate full of food, right? Can I skip some of the food in the day which I feel that I should eat? And that may be a good way to start out with. And automatically you find that you're getting satiety levels at lower levels of food consumption. And slowly you're able to program your own self. It's just programming. That's it. So I would love to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Body is a very efficient machine, I would say, and it adapts to all the dynamic changes that are occurring. So basically, Dr. Agarwal rightly mentioned that the genes are responsible for three things. One is how the fat is stored. Secondly, how the food is metabolized, and third is how your appetite and hunger is controlled. So These are the elements which you're born with. So where your appetite is, so you see some children who have a high appetite, some children who have a low appetite. So I think that I agree with Dr. Agarwal that the food quantity control, the behavior control matters a lot to these genes. So genes आपके decide क्या करते हैं कि मैं कितना खाऊंगी, लेकिन behavior क्या decide करता है कि मैं कितना control कर पाऊंगी. So ये जो है, there is a interaction between your genes and your environment, and both put together gives a output which is the form of your weight. So and there is this concept, आपने बहुत अच्छी तरीके से बताया, जो set point concept है कि body एक set point तक पहुंचती है. अगर मैं कम से कम से suppose I'm eating only 1 kilo of food every day, my body gets adapted to that, and वो set point आ जाता है कि जहाँ तक I can eat only 1 kilo in a day, and my body feels full with it. So वैसे this kind of a concept is very important in understanding the gene and environment interaction. So, Dr. Agarwal, I wanted to know what are the environmental factors, like does stress affect this genetic predisposition, or does it help in bringing these genes out and expressing themselves to cause obesities, say stress,
Sorry,
sleep, or
what was the initial question that you asked me? I missed it out.
yeah, so are there any the environmental factors like stress, sleep, which affect the genetic expressions? So do you
Yes,
think that it changes the type the genes come out and express themselves?
I agree with you entirely. See, uh, Ajkal, we find that there's so many behavioral problems people tend to have, right? Compulsive eating, right? And this could be just because you're sitting in a company and you find that everybody's eating, so I also got to eat. And you don't realize how much are you eating, right? Number two, the stress levels of individuals have gone up. And this is an escape mechanism or fighting fatigue or stress कि मैं खा लूंगी तो मेरे को थोड़ा सा. I just had a patient today who said that my escape mechanism from stress is by eating. You know, that if
Comfort.
I
Yeah.
eat, I just sort of escape from my stress, and that's my coping mechanism that I've got. कि मैं अगर खाऊंगी तो मेरे को अच्छा feel होती है, and that gives me a sense of elation, sort of a thing. And just this morning, I saw this young girl who said, "I'm happy with my," and she had a BMI of almost 43, and I asked her, "What do you do?" No, she's a student. She's part-time working also, right? And she says that I have other stresses in my life. So I said, okay, I'm not going to ask you what your stresses is, but how do you cope with your stress? And she says, I'm happy eating, and that's my happy mechanism. But she doesn't exercise, she doesn't do anything. So that coping mechanism has become a challenge for her, right? Similarly, sleep disturbances, as you rightly said, have become another factor because today, if you see, a number of people have got sleep issues. Now, you can blame it on screen time, sedentary life, all kinds of things that have been attributed to it to have sleep disturbances. And when you are not sleeping, let's say you're watching TV, and then people are hooked onto the mobile and they're hooked onto the TV and watching shows, they have a snack just next to their hand. It's so easy to reach out and
Yeah.
start munching chips out there while you're watching a movie at 3 in the morning, and you're just sitting in the bed doing nothing, nothing absolutely, and you're munching the chips which has huge amount of trans fat into it, and you're going to get so many calories out of that. And when you sleep at 3, you wake up at 10, your cycle is completely disturbed, your circadian rhythms are disturbed. And we've got evidence to show कि आप circadian rhythms देखोगे तो आपका मेजर मील पोर्शन कहाँ पे आप खा रहे हो, दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. आप शाम की मील कितने बजे खा रहे हो, दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. So they have shown that late meal versus early meal consumption in the evening, what is the impact on the weight that it has. So पहले हम, if you remember Vaishali, we've got a lot of people Jainism in our country, and they eat at 6 o'clock,
Hmm.
right?
That's right.
We today recognize it is so healthy to eat at 6 o'clock, and they don't eat anything after 6 o'clock, right? But today, if you look at the lifestyle, people come back from work, spend time with the family, watch a news or TV show, and eat at about 10 and 11 in the night, right? And there's studies to show that when you eat that late, it causes weight gain. When you eat early, there is a weight loss that tends to happen. And these are just circadian rhythms that are really responsible for it. So these are
So
sort of all.
I'm sorry, I just want to come back to this question that how does hormones interact with the genes then? So you said the circadian rhythm. So do you want to focus on hormones, how they are changing this interaction with the
No, I
genes?
wouldn't talk too much about hormones in an audience like this. But what I would like to stress is we have got two hormones that are extremely important: the ghrelin and the leptin. The ghrelin is a hormone, and the leptin is a satiety hormone. Now, they're feedback hormones basically, right? And you realize that people do extensive amount of weight loss, and they get weight sort of coming down by almost 15, 20, 30% post bariatric surgery also. But why do they start gaining weight again? Most important is because the body's feedback mechanism, it doesn't like it, it kind of pushes back against the severe weight loss. And you have a kind of a feedback mechanism that says that you need to eat more, because there's a relative sort of deficiency, nutritional deficiency, that the individual tends to have. And you see all the different hormones that neuroleptin hormones and YY and all these different hormones that are there, they will start kicking in. And you find that anything that you do in terms of weight loss, there is a slow weight regain that tends to happen in these individuals, right? And I would come back to you and say that how do you cope with these sort of situations where you've got weight regains happening and the neurohormonal mechanism? So partly what happens is people have a sense that मैंने इतना weight loss कर लिया है और अभी I've achieved my purpose, and they start relaxing on that. The other aspect is, of course, that the body starts kicking back, and you have again a slow weight regain that tends to happen. And third is, of course, the motivation, right? People are not able to sustain their motivation for long periods of time, to say that, okay, I have done enough, and now you know, they see everybody else enjoying, and they are not able to cope up with that, okay, I am restrict myself, and, I have to do all these difficult situations. So all these things are very difficult to sort of sustain on the longer period unless you're motivated enough to do it. Now, whether that translates into genetic changes, is you can talk about it endlessly. But what matters is, at the end of the day, how does a patient feel and cope up with all these things is very important. If we have to get a sustainable weight loss, which is going to translate into better health for the future.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you that suppose if I have a strong family history of obesity and I have a genes which are going to make me obese, is it impossible for me to lose weight with medications? What do
So
you
I
think?
always say there are two types of obesity, and this is very simplistic terms that I'm really talking about, right? You've got generations who are obese in the family. It's very easy to recognize them. Secondly, you look at the individual. I ask them simple question: as a child, were you obese, or did you develop obesity in later life? So were you born thin, became big later on, or were you born big and then remain big? That's how it is. And how is your family tree? Are they all obese or are they thin? Right. So if you start very early, and then if you actually look at some of the theories, they go intrauterine also, to say that if you're sort of born thin and then become big later on, then your chances of developing diabetes and other non-communicable diseases becomes very high. And this is entirely nutrition environment in the uterus during the mother's pregnancy as such. Okay, so we're not going to go that far inside, right? But if you're born big and you're obese in the childhood, right? And let's assume the fact that you're not having a very bad lifestyle as a child, right? These are more of what we call as hyperplastic obesity, where there's more number of fat cells that an individual tends to have, right? But if you're born thin and you become fat at a later point of time, this is more of a hypertrophic obesity, where you have less cells, but those cells get saturated with more
Bigger.
fat in, right? And I'm just talking very simplistic terms. Now, if you look at hypertrophic obesity, where you're born with lesser number of cells, but they become more saturated with fat, these are the people who actually gain a lot in terms of weight loss, because they go back to being looking at thin, what they're really looking at in terms of cosmetic values. So one is cosmetic value, the other one is, of course, in terms of health value
Health
that we
value. Yeah.
correct. But if you have got somebody with a hyperplastic where number of cells are high, right, and they get more fat into it, you will get benefit in terms of losing weight, but you will not reach those thin proportions that you're looking at mentally, that I need to look slim, trim, and size zero. Those, that's never going to happen for you. So ultimately, the objective has to be that what keeps you healthy and fit should be a major objective. Whether cosmetically you're going to look better or not is determined by the fact, as you said, the genes determine that. Are you born thin or are you born fat? And that's where your family tree genes really come into play.
सो आई वुड लाइक टू ऑडियंस को मैं बताना चाहती हूँ कि डॉक्टर संजय ने 3 इम्पोर्टेंट बातें हाइलाइट करी है। एक तो आपको वेट के बारे में जब सोचते हैं तो हेल्थ के बारे में पहले सोचना है। सो इट इज़ नॉट ओनली वेट एज़ सच, बट यू हैव टू थिंक ऑफ द हेल्थ risk or the health related problems that a person has when you're thinking about treatment of obesity. Second important point which is highlighted is that you have to ensure a good biorhythm, a good hormonal makeup. And even if you're genetically prone for obesity, it is not impossible to treat obesity with the agents that are available today, because we know that they hit hard and they can help us overcome the food drive, they can help us overcome the excessive hunger, the lack of satiety. All these are acted upon well by the agents that are available today. So uh, it's a very hopeful thought that a lot of obese people now who could not be treated previously, अभी बहुत सारी दवाइयाँ ऐसी है कि जिनको सालों तक ओबेसिटी का ट्रीटमेंट नहीं मिल पा रहा था, उन्हें भी आजकल ये मिल जाता है और they do respond. So we see patients with high BMIs responding very well to the anti-obesity agents, even though they have genetic risk factors which are strong. So, Dr. Sanjay, can you elaborate कौन से genes होते हैं, जैसे what is this monogenic obesity, polygenic obesity, and the single gene polymorphism and all those things that are
Yeah.
spoken in
So if
obesity?
you look at the different things, you got polygenic means, your genes are controlling different aspects, as we discussed earlier. Now,
Yeah.
monogenic is a single gene that determines the changes of a one aspect of somebody. But nobody has only one aspect of change that is determined by a single gene. Most of us have different aspects which are responsible for weight gain. कि आपका hunger, कैसा है, आपको satiety क्या है, फैट स्टोर्स कितना है, आपके फैमिली ट्री का जीन्स क्या है, राइट? सो ये अलग अलग जीन्स होती है जो डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स आपकी कंट्रोल करती है. सो सिर्फ एक सिंगल जीन को ब्लेम करना मे नॉट बी द अप्रोप्रिएट थिंग, राइट? सो इट इज एट डिफरेंट मल्टीपल लेवल्स जो इंटरेक्शंस होते हैं, एंड दैट इज समथिंग दैट डिटर्मिन्स कि आपको कितना भूख लगने वाली है, आपको सटाइटी कितनी होने वाली है, आपके फैट स्टोर्स कहाँ पे होने वाले. Is it, some people are typical Indians that we have got is more of a central obesity that we have got, right?
Yeah.
And we don't talk much about it. We talk about overall obesity. Now, there has always been the discussion ki, is overall obesity more harmful or central obesity is more harmful? And this discussion has been going on for time and again. Ki, I'm round, but round is also figure. Is it healthy or not? Or if,
Yeah, I know. Any shape is good. Yeah. Fine.
so, or I've got a central, horizontal roundness, which is bad. So these are all sort of different genetic mechanisms that are there. And I mean, that's all technicalities that really matter. And do we really need to stress upon it? No, I don't think so much. What matters is today, from a patient's perspective, see, genes are something that you cannot do anything about. That's, they are born with it, right? So there is no point in discussing genes आपको क्या कर सकते हैं. आपके हाथ में क्या है as a patient or as an individual or as a, somebody who's wanting to do a weight loss, is what can you do in terms of your lifestyle. That's the only thing that matters. And is your lifestyle, so you're born with the genes, that is born with it, like you're done, right? बट आप अपने लाइफस्टाइल को किस तरीके से कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, जिससे आप अपना वेट को कैसे चेंज कर सकते हो, आपके रिस्क फॉर नॉन कम्युनिटी डिजीज लाइक ब्लड प्रेशर, डायबिटीज, हार्ट प्रॉब्लम, स्ट्रोक रिस्क, all these things, how can you change it by a lifestyle change is most important from your point of view as a patient. So, I would stress and give you key messages more from lifestyle point of view rather than talk about more on genes, because there's nothing that you can do about your genes part of it.
तो प्लीज
So this
बताइए सर, आप हमारे ऑडियंस को बताइए, आप लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस क्या सजेस्ट करोगे अगर जेनेटिकली हाई रिस्क है, तो वो क्या चेंज कर पाते हैं अपने लाइफस्टाइल में जिससे वो जीन्स को ओवरकम कर पाते हैं?
करेक्ट, दैट्स अ गुड क्वेश्चन टू आस्क, बिकॉज ये है कि आपके लिए जो है वो ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट। तो मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग इज eat as much as you actually require, right? And you need to be mindful of the fact कि आप क्या खा रहे हो। Today, with the era of fast foods, junk foods, trans fats, low protein, high carb diets, these are all killers where it's come. Today, I just look at around me, how many people are actually cooking at home, and I find that majority of the people are happy ordering food from outside. We don't have standardization of food at all. How much of food is labeled to say कि आपके फूड में कितना फैट है या शुगर है या आपका प्रोटीन कंटेंट कितना है? None of the foods actually, and there's so unregulated market that we have got. Today, I think the most corrupted industry is the food industry with big labels. And I've seen this label which shows jumbo burger with a diet coke. And I just laughed out loud, like, that is it really the correct advertisement that we should solicit? And should we, rather than tax individual where it hits you the most, why don't we tax individual where the stomach gets hit the most? That's the most important
That's true.
part of things, right? So the food tax should actually go up to, and healthy food tax should go down, but unhealthy food tax should actually go up, because at least it'll make people sensitive to the fact that as to what they should eat and how much, and learn to say no to food. I mean, it's always good to have small meals. Keep your stomach hungry to a certain extent. Don't overfeed yourselves, right? And don't sleep after eating immediately. Keep a food interval, I mean, an interval of, awake cycle of walking around, doing some activities, going for a walk or something after food, rather than eat and go to sleep immediately, right? Your calorie consumption should be determined by what is your current BMI, number one. Number two, what activity levels are you sedentary, overactive? How much of calories do you really require in that sense? Most of us have a low protein. I mean, irrespective of the fact who you are. And the the proteins give you satiety. The proteins help for tissue, build up. You need to have a lot of fiber in your food, most important. And I always tell the patients that, you know are you one of those large eaters or small eaters, because that again is very important. Some people have got large eating habits and they are just not able to stop eating, and you give them fiber, or you just give them, pre-meal something to eat, like they've been, just ask them to eat salads, sprouts, greens, even a bowl of, curd, dahi aap kha lijiye. You have a bowl of dahi, it gives you a sense of fullness. You've got a lot of proteins that come in from the dahi. You eat a bowl of sprout, right? You eat a bowl of salads, that gives you a sense of, fullness, and you automatically start eating less, all the bad food that is there. It binds your fats, it binds your carbs, and prevents it from getting absorbed, right? And the other thing is, of course, you burn out all this by a good level of exercise. So the people tell me I do 10,000 steps a day. I said, great, but that's not the exercise that I'm looking at, right? You have to have a mix of endurance, and you need to have strength training that you need to do. So you need to have at least half an hour, 45 minutes of endurance, like walk, jog, swim, cycle, whatever your life permits you to do. And you do half an hour of strength training with weight stretches, pulleys, resistance exercises. Now if you find dedicating 1 hour is difficult, you can break it down into different portions and do it as you can do it. Try and avoid motorized vehicles, learn to climb up, learn to walk, right? Your work habits and work exercise at work has now become a big thing, because rather than be stationary in one place, you become active in your workplace itself, is a good level of exercise that you can do. So I don't know if I'm talking too much, but I should hand this back to you, Vaishali.
No, I think
I'm,
I'm engrossed in your talk, so that's good. So all our audience, हमें हमारे सारे audience को अभी पता चल गया होगा कि उन्हें lifestyle में क्या करना है. और what I realized from your sentences is that clean eating is a must. and healthy movement is a must. So the two basic principle is healthy mind, mindful eating, clean eating, and then exercise. So all these actually are small terms, but they make a lot of meaning when we are thinking about lifestyle changes. So will my lifestyle changes help me to shut off these obesity genes? Will it overcome them, overpower them? Because we've seen that people who do exercise for long, who follow diet for long, they usually get a new set point. They get tend to maintain their weights better. They also have a good amount of sarcopenia being controlled, so muscle mass is maintained. So is it possible to control these genes with all the good lifestyle changes that you mentioned?
100% yes. I would say yes, right? Because it's very important that we understand. And you'll find numerous examples at either end of the spectrum. Numerous examples to say failure of therapy, and I feel that they haven't done enough, right? And numerous examples of really successful therapy at all age groups. I've seen not only in children, but even at the other extremes of age, where you've got elderly people who tend to become very, obese. They get sarcopenic. At that's the term I really love, because we feel, big people and they should be healthy, and we feel, but they have very small muscles and poor muscle health, and they are very sarcopenic in terms of power. And you have other extreme, mother feeding the child, fat is fit, that kind of a principle the mother has got for the child, and he keeps feeding the child without, realizing that how much harm that child is getting just by the continuous feeding that mother is feeling that, my child is not eating enough. So I think, that's a clear message that the mothers should get about their children. If feeding the child doesn't mean that you're making him more and more fit, I think you have to feed that guy less rather than more. Yeah.
On this point, I remembered my teacher telling me that a person with a high muscle strength in the thigh lives the longest. So that sarcopenia, the importance of sarcopenia being highlighted right from those days when my teacher taught me. I think muscle is one thing which we tend to neglect, and as obese people, as obesity as a disease, we need to pay extra attention to our muscle mass. And then we heard a lot of words on lifestyle management and muscle mass and sarcopenia and genes and all the other words. Now, one word which I would like you to highlight and emphasize on is, what is this BMR? The BMR,
Yes.
my BMR is slow, my BMR is not increasing. My What do I do with that?
It's a nice way to express inadequate levels of effort, like,
I know,
so, I don't want to move, and it says my BMR is low, so,
yeah, it's a
or
bit
you have
exclusive.
hyperactive individual and you say my BMR is high. But yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it basically it's called as basal metabolic rate that we talk about, कि आपका body metabolism किस rate पे चल रहा है. Now, for example, I'll just give a disease stage where you've got somebody with a thyroid problem and they have a low BMR level, whereas somebody who's got a high thyroid values, they have a very high BMR rates. So with the low BMR rates, your chances of weight gain tend to get higher because you're not moving enough. Your body slows down and you're not really adequately moving. All your metabolism slows down, whatever you do. Whereas at a high BMR value, everything is working at a very fast pace. A person is very hyperactive. They tend to have, a lot of activity levels. They actually lose weight. Now, it depends on, are you looking at a disease state or a normal state, and a person where it is. But essentially, it just means a basal metabolic rate that we're talking in terms of body's metabolic shape up that you look at.
So, BMR is also genetic dependent. Are
To
there
a certain
genes which
extent,
control the
yes.
metabolic rates
Yes,
also?
to a certain extent, yes. Yes,
So
yes.
that's what, इसी वजह से हम अगर वही खाना खाते हैं तो हर एक का मेटाबॉलिज्म अलग होने से ही उनके वेट अलग होते हैं. सो दिस इज द रीजन व्हाई उसकी साड़ी मेरी साड़ी से सफेद कैसे है, दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग, कि वो कैसे पतली हो रही है और मैं कैसे नहीं हो रही हूँ. सो दैट डिफरेंस इज probably because of the BMR differences, and we need to understand that genes play a lot of role in how you metabolize food, how your hormones are produced, how your hunger is controlled, and how your stomach feels full. So your genes are going to decide that. You It is better to accept that you have these kind of genes and then move on, as Dr. Sanjay rightly mentioned about the lifestyle changes. Work on it, hit hard so that the genes don't overpower the lifestyle changes. So I think that time has just flown. We've finished with 50 minutes of this talk time, and it's been so interesting talking to you. And I think we need to now summarize because we have last 5 minutes left. So I would like to you to just emphasize on the gut health and the gut bacteria. Where does it play a role in obesity, and
Yeah,
where
so
we can improve it?
microbiomes today has become a big catchword, and how kind of gut health is important in terms of digestion, in terms of we're talking about obesity, talking about so many other things in terms of gut microbiomes that we talk about. And today there is even digestive processes. We talk about gut bacteria that we have. Do we have healthy bacteria? Do we have unhealthy bacteria? And if you look at it, people are doing all kinds of bacteria that are being given by different routes to them, right from the you know transplant
Yes.
of fecal transplantation and all kinds of things that are being talked about. But the bottom line is nobody's proven anything about whether this really works or not work. It is good to talk, it's good in terms of science, but in terms of commercial practice, whether it really translates into benefits and how much of it is going to change your entire landscape of obesity and its problems is all questionable. I don't know what you look at it, but I look at it from a very questionable value.
I think the bottom line is that you need to have a healthy gut to maintain your weight appropriately. So, whatever natural forms of probiotic you can afford to or take it into your meal and eat it in a very clean fashion, I think that's going to really help the gut health, because we know that gut is a mini brain, and it's a the gut neuroendocrine hormones play a lot of role in weight control. So I think that now I am due for the last question, which I want finally. What do you think? Is it genetic, or is it lifestyle, or both, or the interaction that finally decides the outcome? What is it?
We'll I to me I feel that it is all in the mind. It's all up there. If I want to sort of exercise, I want to eat right, I will program myself to do it. And if I'm conscious about my health, I'm going to be convinced over here to do what I'm supposed to do. And if I'm not convinced enough, right, I may bark over the rooftops and do whatever I want, and I may put you through tons of therapies, and you may spend lakhs of rupees, and I may take all the possible therapies, right? It's not going to help till I'm motivated and convinced up here in the mind that I need it and I need to see that I follow it. You've got great agents today, you've got great nutraceuticals to support you, right? We understand the science, we understand the genes, everything is there in place. The most important thing, you as an individual, how convinced are you to see that weight matters, and is really fat fit or is fat unfit, right? And if I'm convinced about it, I will do everything under the world to say that I'm going to ensure that my BMI stays in the right proportions so that I have longevity and a better quality of life.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I feel weight maintenance is a mindset. It's a now actually. If last week I had an interview where we spoke about obesity as a brain disease. So I think a lot of parts of the weight control and weight management depends on how your brain is geared to, how your mind looks at it, and how motivated you are in terms of your behavior. So I think I'm so glad that Eli Lilly is doing this in educational initiatives, because these kind of initiatives are going to help us uh, rule out the myths that are commonly seen in terms of weight loss, and also it is going to help us to treat each and every obese individual in the right fashion so that the health and well-being of these patients are taken care of. So I thank Dr. Sanjay for that excellent. I would say rapid fire questioning and very extensive answering for a hour long period. And it's been wonderful talking to you, listening from you. And I look forward to having more such interviews with you. And thank you, KK Med Talks, for giving me this opportunity. And it's a pleasure being here with all of you, audience. And I thank all the audience to be logged in on a New Year's Eve. And I wish you all a very happy New Year to come.
Thank you, Vaishali, but I must compliment you for being such an excellent interviewer. I think you were brilliant, absolutely, and I think you brought out aspects that people least think about. But I think because of your, probing questions, we brought out so many points that would be of value, to people to understand why somebody succeeds and why somebody fails. And I think, even if you can imbibe about 5% of this, it'll go a long way in terms of improving health. And I wish everybody, a very happy new year. It's been a pleasure, Vaishali, to, talk to you. Look forward to more such interactions. And thank you, with KK and with Eli Lily and everybody who've been great hosts of this show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Good night.